The first time Caleb Mercer noticed it, he blamed the rain. The fence behind his farmhouse leaned slightly toward the woods, and the vegetable garden looked uneven, as though the soil had shifted overnight. It happened all the time after heavy storms. He repaired the fence, flattened the dirt, forgot about it. The following morning, the ground had risen again. Not much, perhaps an inch. Enough that the fence leaned once more. Enough that water flowed uphill instead of down. Enough to make Caleb stop and stare. His farmhouse stood alone on 80 acres in northern Montana. No neighbors, no highways, just endless grasslands surrounded by pine forests and rocky hills. His grandfather had bought the property after World War II. His father had farmed it. Now it belonged to Caleb. The land had always behaved exactly as land should. Until now, every morning, something had changed. Fence posts appeared shorter. The old oak tree behind the barn exposed more of its roots. The chicken coop leaned farther each day. It wasn't collapsing. The earth beneath it was changing shape. Caleb borrowed a laser level from a construction crew repairing a nearby bridge. He drove metal stakes into the ground across his backyard, measured every elevation, recorded everything in a notebook. The readings made no sense. By sunset, everything remained perfectly level. The following morning, every stake had risen exactly 1 inch. Not 1 point. All of them, together, like an invisible platform, had lifted the entire property during the night. The surrounding valley hadn't changed. Only his land. Exactly 80 acres. No more, no less. He called the county survey office. 2 engineers arrived. Spent 6 hours checking measurements. GPS, satellite positioning, ground-penetrating radar. Everything appeared normal. One engineer finally laughed. "You're imagining it." Caleb didn't argue. Instead, he asked them to return the next morning. They did. Silently, every survey marker stood 1 inch higher. Exactly as Caleb had predicted. The younger engineer frowned. "I've never seen anything like this." The older one refused to speak. He simply packed his equipment. As he drove away, Caleb noticed the man crossing himself. Night 10. The dogs refused to leave the porch. They growled toward the empty pasture. Not barking, watching. Every few minutes, their ears twitched toward the ground, as though listening to something beneath it. Around midnight, Caleb woke. Not because of a sound, because of the silence. The crickets had stopped. The wind had stopped. Even the old grandfather clock downstairs had stopped ticking. Then, a deep vibration traveled through the floorboards. Not violent, gentle, like someone tapping underneath the house. Once, twice, 3 times. Then nothing. Morning revealed another inch. By the 3rd week, neighbors began noticing. The gravel road leading to Caleb's farm no longer matched the surrounding landscape. Driving onto his property felt like crossing an invisible hill. Except, no hill had existed before. Satellite images confused everyone. The government maps still showed flat farmland. Drone footage showed something different. His property now stood noticeably higher than every neighboring field. Like a massive square platform rising slowly from beneath the earth. Perfectly level. Perfectly square. The news arrived. Scientists followed. Geologists. Engineers. Military officers. Nobody explained why soldiers suddenly guarded the property. One evening, a geologist named Dr. Emily Rhodes knocked on Caleb's door. She looked exhausted. "We drilled." Caleb nodded. "And?" She hesitated. "We expected bedrock." "What did you find?" She swallowed. "Stone." "That's normal." "No," she whispered. "Worked stone." She unfolded photographs. Perfectly smooth black rock. Not natural. Polished. Covered in precise geometric grooves. Every drill core had struck exactly the same material. No matter where they drilled. No matter how deep. "It isn't bedrock," she said quietly. "It's a roof." Caleb laughed. "A roof?" Emily nodded. We stopped drilling at 1,200 feet. 1,200. We never reached the bottom. The government sealed the drilling site before sunrise. Every core sample disappeared. Scientists signed non-disclosure agreements. Military trucks replaced survey vehicles. Officially, nothing unusual had been discovered. Unofficially, Emily returned after dark. She spread satellite photographs across Caleb's kitchen table. Each image showed the same impossible outline beneath his land. Perfectly square, nearly 2 miles wide. Far larger than his property. Far larger than the entire valley. Only the very center lay beneath his farm. It's impossible. Caleb whispered. Emily nodded. If these measurements are correct. She paused. Your house isn't sitting on a hill. It's sitting on the highest point. She circled faint lines visible beneath the soil. At first they resembled cracks. Then, Caleb realized what he was seeing. Stairs. Massive stairs. Hundreds of feet wide. Leading downward beneath the earth. Or perhaps, upward. Night 24. The first crack appeared. Not in the ground. In the air. A faint shimmer above the pasture. Heat distortion. Except the temperature had fallen below freezing. The shimmer slowly drifted across the field, following the invisible outline beneath the soil. The cattle panicked. Every animal broke through the fence and fled into the forest. They never returned. Morning came. The ground had risen another inch. But something else had changed. A corner of black stone now protruded from the earth. Only a few inches visible. Perfectly smooth. Perfectly polished. Without dirt. Without erosion. As though it had been carved yesterday. Caleb touched it. The stone felt warm. Warmer than his own skin. Despite the freezing morning air. His hand jerked back. Not because of the heat. Because he had felt something else. A pulse. Slow. Steady. Almost. Like a heartbeat. That afternoon, military helicopters circled overhead. No one landed. No one spoke. They simply watched. At sunset, Emily arrived carrying an old leather-bound journal. No title. No author's name. Just faded pages filled with sketches. She opened to one marked with brittle ribbon. The drawing showed a farmhouse, standing atop an enormous staircase emerging from the earth. The illustration had been dated October 14th, 1891. Caleb stared. That's my house. Emily slowly shook her head. No, she whispered. Your house hasn't been built yet. He frowned. What? She pointed toward the sketch. The farmhouse looked identical, except for one detail. The front porch was empty. His farmhouse had always had a rocking chair. The drawing didn't. Because his grandfather hadn't added it until 1956. The artist had somehow drawn the house 65 years before it existed. The final page contained only one sentence, written in trembling ink. When the staircase reaches the sky, do not climb it. Outside, something enormous shifted beneath the earth. This time, the entire house moved. Not sideways. Upward. Exactly 1 inch. Caleb barely slept. Every creak of the old farmhouse sounded different now. Not like settling timber. Like something beneath the floor was carefully adjusting its weight. Waiting. At sunrise, the military had surrounded the property. Armored vehicles blocked every road. Floodlights pointed toward the pasture despite the daylight. Scientists hurried between temporary laboratories erected overnight. Nobody explained what was happening. They simply measured, photographed, waited. The stone staircase had risen another inch. Only now, it wasn't just a corner. 3 enormous steps now broke through the soil, each one nearly 40 feet wide. Perfectly polished black stone. No cracks. No weathering. No moss. Nothing suggested they had been buried beneath the earth for thousands of years. They looked new. A government official approached Caleb. We're evacuating the area. Why? No answer. Instead, the official handed him a document. It wasn't classified. It wasn't even recent. It was a handwritten report dated 1912. The final sentence read, "The structure resumed its ascent after exactly 21 nights. We failed to stop the seventh emergence." Seventh? Caleb frowned. There had been others. Emily arrived moments later carrying another journal. "I found more records." She spread yellowed maps across the hood of a military jeep. Every century, the same square appeared. Different country, different continent, different civilization. Always rising, always stopping after 40 nights. Then, vanishing again. Ancient Mesopotamia, northern Scotland, the Andes, the Gobi Desert, the Australian outback, the Sahara, Montana. "It isn't moving," Emily whispered. "It's resurfacing." She pointed to dates. The intervals were almost identical, roughly every 600 years. Every civilization had recorded it. Every civilization had tried to understand it. None had succeeded. The old journals all described the same impossible event. The Earth never swallowed the structure. The structure lowered itself, as though choosing to disappear. Night 28. The vibrations became louder. Windows rattled. Water inside glasses formed perfect circles. Birds abandoned the valley entirely. Even insects disappeared. Silence spread across the landscape. Then, at exactly 2:13 a.m., the stars vanished. Not clouds. The stars themselves. Above Caleb's property, the night sky became completely empty, as though someone had erased a perfect square from the heavens. Scientists rushed outside. Every telescope failed. Every satellite lost signal while passing directly overhead. One military helicopter accidentally crossed the invisible boundary. It disappeared. Not exploded. Not crashed. Gone. Its radio continued transmitting. For exactly 12 seconds. The crew could be heard screaming. Not in fear. In confusion. "There's another sky." Static. "There's no GRU." Silence. The helicopter never returned. Morning came. Another inch. The staircase now towered nearly 4 feet above the surrounding fields. The stone felt warmer. The pulse stronger. No longer once every minute. Now, every few seconds that afternoon, a mathematician requested permission to examine the grooves carved into the black stone. For hours she copied symbols onto transparent sheets. Then suddenly stopped. Her face turned white. "What is it?" Emily asked. "They aren't decorations." "What are they?" The woman slowly turned the notebook around. The grooves formed. A calendar. Not counting days. Counting rises. She translated the repeating symbols aloud. First ascent. Second ascent. Third ascent. Thousands of entries. Each separated by centuries. The final unread entry had begun glowing faintly beneath the afternoon sun. Night 33. The staircase reached the farmhouse porch. The first step aligned perfectly with Caleb's front door, as though the house had always been built there. Waiting. Nobody climbed it. The journals had all repeated the same warning. "Do not climb." Then, someone did. Private Ethan Brooks, 23 years old. Ignoring every order, he stepped onto the lowest stair. Nothing happened. He laughed. Second step. Still nothing. Third. Fourth. He turned back toward the soldiers. "See." The fifth step. Answered. The stone beneath Ethan's boots became transparent. Everyone saw beneath it. Not dirt. Not rock. An endless city. Columns. Roads. Bridges stretching farther than the eye could follow. Lit by a pale golden light with no visible source. It wasn't buried. It couldn't be. It was larger than the earth itself. Ethan looked down. His smile vanished. He whispered, "They are looking back." Then, he simply walked downward. Not physically. His body remained standing. But his reflection inside the stone continued descending endless stairs until it disappeared into the glowing city below. A heartbeat later, his body collapsed. Empty, like a discarded coat. No blood, no wound, Just nothing inside. Panic erupted. The military abandoned the staircase. Nobody approached it again. Emily stared at the journals. I think we've misunderstood everything. Caleb looked at her. What do you mean? We thought this staircase was coming up. She shook her head. It isn't. She pointed toward Ethan's body. The stairs don't rise. They connect. Night 39. The staircase had climbed above the farmhouse roof. Each night it gained another inch. Each night the pulse beneath the stone grew stronger. Like something preparing to awaken, Caleb packed his truck. He intended to leave before the 40th night. He never made it. The road no longer existed. The valley itself had changed. The staircase wasn't only beneath his land anymore. It stretched beyond the horizon. Miles of black stone slowly emerging from beneath forests, rivers, and mountains. The whole continent had been sitting on it. No one had noticed. At sunset, every television station in the country lost signal. Instead, the same image appeared everywhere. An endless staircase disappearing into clouds. No announcer. No emergency warning. Just one line of white text. The path is open. Exactly at midnight, the staircase stopped moving. Silence returned. The pulse beneath the stone ceased. Everyone waited. Minutes passed. Nothing happened. Then, the clouds above the staircase slowly parted. Not because of wind, because they were being pushed aside. Something enormous was descending. Not a creature, a building, an impossibly vast structure made of the same black stone. Its foundations matched the staircase perfectly, like the final piece of a machine reconnecting after centuries apart. The upper half had never been hidden underground. It had always been above, waiting. The structure settled without a sound. One immense doorway slowly opened. Inside, there was no darkness, only another sky, filled with unfamiliar constellations. Every electronic device across the valley activated simultaneously. Phones, radios, televisions, car dashboards. Each displayed the same sentence. Ascent 8412 complete. Emily looked toward Caleb. We weren't the first. Caleb whispered, or the last. The doorway remained open for exactly 1 minute. Then the impossible structure began rising. Straight upward. Not flying. Not accelerating. Simply continuing a journey that had started thousands of years before humanity existed. The staircase followed. Stone by stone. Each step lifted silently into the sky until nothing remained except flattened earth. By dawn, the valley looked exactly as it had 40 days earlier. The fence stood straight. The fields were level. The farmhouse rested naturally on the ground. No staircase. No military. No laboratories. Nothing. The government declared the incident an elaborate geological misunderstanding. Every photograph of the staircase had become corrupted. Every satellite recording showed empty farmland. The event slowly disappeared from public memory. 6 months later, Caleb received a package with no return address. Inside was a polished black stone no larger than his hand. Warm, smooth, perfectly carved. Along with a note. Only 5 words. The 9th Ascent begins soon. Caleb turned the stone over. Carved into its underside was a map. Not of Earth. Of somewhere else. One tiny point glowed softly. Labeled, Next Foundation. Thanks for watching. Follow Story Hub Central for more exciting stories.